ladies and gentlemen, and I'm delighted that we have some gender parity in this conversation. Thank goodness. So I'd ask each of you to take like a minute, 30 seconds to a minute, just to introduce yourself. I think you could say it much more eloquently. Describe, name, role, organization, whatever, just what you're doing. And maybe, a little insight into workforce, why you're interested in workforce.
Okay, well, this is easy for me. I am the Dean of Engineering, the Pritzker School of Molecular Engineering at the University of Chicago,
yeah, welcome.
As well as Vice President of Science and Innovation and Partnerships there. So, of course, we're extremely interested in workforce development. We have invested tremendously in building up an entire quantum department within our school, and really partnering widely across the ecosystem in order to make sure that we develop the future quantum workforce. So,
great, welcome.
Did I say at University of Chicago?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
They would kill me if I didn't do that.
What else would you have said? Like,
I just would have said Pritzker School. This is Pritzker, encompasses a lot. So that's our governor too. So, it's all good.
Welcome. Philip, please.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So Phil Intlor, I'm the Group Head of Quantum Technology at HSBC. You may have heard of it. It's a small bank around the world. Really what my role is to prepare the bank for readiness towards unlocking the potential opportunity and value from quantum technology, but also from the emerging risks as well. I speak a lot about the kinds of things that we're doing. I think probably what I speak less about are the kinds of partnerships that we've cultivated and actually the critical importance of cross-skilling, but also, providing that awareness across the wider organization at scale, just so there's a basic fluency of this kind of technology. That's me.
Great. Michael.
Hi, I'm Mike Biersick. I'm the CEO and founder of Q-CTRL. I'm a former academic, so I think we share a lot of background with some of the panelists. I'm excited that in addition to the quantum navigation, quantum advantage demonstrations that we talked about before, we have focused since the earliest days on driving workforce development, not of more PhDs in quantum physics. That's for universities, our partners like University of Chicago, but instead people from adjacent sectors to become quantum conversant. And it's actually a great pleasure that the other three panelists are all users in various ways of our product Black Opal. And for what it's worth, I'm also connected with Nadia. I did my PhD studying under Nadia's tutelage when she was a postdoc at Harvard.
Really? Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. Sorry, I spilled
the world. Here we are.
Hence the evidence of workforce development. You see what happens.
Here we are.
It all comes down.
It's an amazing company that's doing incredible stuff. Piers, please.
Hi, so Piers Clinton-Towersted. I'm a partner at EY. Reason I'm here is spent the last 5 years looking at how we do collaborations both with our clients and outside in quantum, which has included leaning on some great partners for learning platforms, but also for other technical skills. So to share some of those experiences.
Great. And Abby, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Abby Casey. I work at the National Quantum Computing Centre. So you just heard from Michael, a bit of an introduction there. So I'm one of our quantum readiness delivery leads. I co-lead our quantum readiness program Spark. My team specifically focuses on how we can help build a quantum workforce in the UK. So supporting that kind of talent pipeline right from schools through to professional development, and also how we can kind of inspire that next generation through outreach work as well.
Yeah, and that's a unique setting. I mean, you're doing that at NQCC, right? I mean, sort of in a middle ground kind of a space, if you will, which I think is really important. I want to start off by talking about critical skills for the quantum workforce of the future. To what degree will they vary by application? Certainly, more broadly than just PhDs in condensed matter physics, right? And Michael, as a PhD and someone who started a successful quantum company, what's your take on quantum workforce of the future needs in terms of skill sets? How do we orient people interested in, obviously building workforce?
So I think to lay the groundwork, this is a very technical field. There are many research challenges to go, whether you're in quantum computing or quantum sensing. And that means we will need many more experts. We will need people trained specifically to perform independent research in this area. I want to emphasize how important it is that we consider continued investment in education at this advanced level, the PhD level and similar. But I want to also emphasize that most of our policy discussion has, in my view, falsely suggested that's the whole story, that all we need is to make more PhDs. I believe that is a critical part, but it is not the only part. That we also need people who come from adjacent backgrounds, who are experts in other areas of engineering, of business, with skills that I would characterize as being conversant. They don't need to be the people building the most advanced quantum technology. They need to know enough in order to employ it to solve the problems that are relevant to their fields. They need to be able to bring their skills and their expertise into our field. So we heard in the last panel quite a lot of discussion about an academic research program on quantum navigation. It's very similar to the kinds of things that we're interested in. The way we've been able to do it so rapidly is we brought in people with engineering experience in conventional software, in optics, optical engineering, embedded electronics, and we made them conversant enough in quantum to really make an impact in accelerating our field trials that we talked about before. So we have focused very heavily on ensuring that that's a key part of the conversation and then delivering the tools that make it possible. That's what Black Opal is for.
Yeah, and I want to talk more about Black Opal in a moment, but I want to get the academic perspective, right? So what do you see as, like, you want your kids to get jobs, right? I mean, they want to go and pay off their school loans or get have a real life or whatever. So what quantum skills of the future, and I didn't mean to demean PhDs in condensed matter physics by any means, but I mean, again, these are businesses on some level, so they need ancillary and adjacent skills, right? But so what's from University of Chicago, what's the plan?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Michael. We definitely we will need hardware development in the future. We have a PhD, we had the world's first PhD program in quantum engineering. So we need people who are really focused on this field. But more than that, we need what I think of as plus quantum, right? We need computer science plus quantum, engineers plus quantum, plumbing plus quantum, right? I worked on delusion refrigerators, right? That's welders plus quantum. Totally. So, as they become tools, like an MRI, for example, people who operate MRIs don't need to understand how nuclear magnetic resonance works in a really deep, they don't need to do spectroscopy. They need to know enough about the tool to operate it, to maintain it, and to help build, use it in the future. And so that's really what we're thinking about at all levels of education, from undergraduate to master's to the PhD.
Yeah, that's a great perspective. Piers, you deal with clients who are dealing with this issue. Future computer, quantum skills. What's the landscape, or what do you tell clients?
I mean, I'll build on Nadja's point. Actually, I think the two things we see businesses really need, and I'd agree with your point, Michael, around the need for fundamental investment, and that was one of the things that came out of the NQCC survey we did a few years ago. But I think the two things we see businesses needing are integrators, people who can kind of span those boundaries and sit between the technical partners that we're working with, but also stand enough around their data, how it might be relevant. And certainly we've seen that in many of our recent pilots. And the other thing, which might be unusual for a consultant to say, is we need people who are going to get hands-on. PowerPoint can only get you so far, and actually getting involved in the coding and being willing and curious enough to do it is actually a real differentiator. I know that's a softer skill, but I think that's a skill that's really key. People are willing to move beyond their PowerPoint, to explore some of the learning platforms and to get involved. And I think that really makes a difference for business.
Great, thank you. I want to talk sort of specifics. Philip, I want to talk about HSBC, your perspective, where you said you're in a highly regulated business, lots of proprietary data, driven by technology for sure. Right. So what kind of talent are you actively cultivating, say, within your organization? Maybe a little backstory about how you built the team, right? And then how you're approaching partnerships as well. To what degree do they help you bridge that gap?
So I think we're quite aligned here, because when, the HSBC quantum program's been running for over 3 years. And I think the very first thing I did was to hire some core quantum talent and bring them into the organization. It's got to start with the technical knowledge to move forward the mission. Yeah. And so, but that on its own isn't enough. So, you need business domain knowledge as well. And so you have to partner the quantum expert with the business expert. And that's also not enough. You then need to partner those two with the technology expert, right? Of the type of technology that you're going to use and test its use case. Or if you're doing some more high level kind of theoretical work, it may be with an academia. So we've always advocated this very close collaboration within the business, but also with external partners as well. And that could be academics, startups, regulators, all the way through to big technology. I think where we've then come over the last few years of really maturing that capability of looking at use cases and building new partnerships. We've probably got 50 partnerships with third parties in the work that we're doing, which is quite a lot given we're a small team. Yeah. But we've now started to think about the elements that Michael has talked about, which is, okay, how do we build more general awareness across the organization? Because as we move to deployment, we need to engage engineers to build the thing. We need to engage architects to figure out how we're going to build the data pipes. We have this thing in banking called model risk management. Nothing can be deployed until they approve it, but they don't have the know-how on quantum models. So this thing becomes a lot bigger as you start to move towards deployment. And I think that's where it isn't just about quantum expertise, but there is a hierarchy of how you need to approach the problem. I think it's all important, but you start to diversify that as you become more mature.
Well, making decisions about who you upskill and who you hire, or who
Well, I mean,
or who you partner with. Or...
It comes down to the credibility of the individual or the organization. And I think I've said earlier, the magic happens when you bring world-class organizations and people together. And that's where the magic happens. And there are world-class academic organizations, startups, big technology players, and the same for individuals. We have 5 or 6 quantum experts sitting within the team. Some of them in this room, I'm not sure where, but they are world-class scientists. It starts with that really, and people have got the same vision as you and have this incredible capability.
Yeah, great. Michael, I want to ask you, you're certainly at the cutting edge in terms of delivering real-world applications. Kudos for your recently announced breakthrough in quantum sensors. That's fantastic. Again, for those of you who missed it, look up on their website, an amazing, innovative solution for GPS-denied environments. A little plug for your work. Yeah. You also have a robust catalog of training, as you mentioned, sort of Black Opal, which is described as a revolutionary online learning platform. So can you describe a little bit about that and the bigger picture, sort of how you balance deep technical training, you were implying earlier, with the reality that additional skills are going to be needed in this emerging. So Black Opal is geared toward sort of quantum literacy. Would you say, is that a fair meta qualifier?
Black Opal is designed to be a complement to more traditional education in a university setting or similar that helps people go from actual zero knowledge in quantum all the way through to being able to program a quantum computer with an interface that's like Duolingo. That's the idea. It's accessible on your mobile phone. You can do it on your desktop. It integrates with large LMSs, learning management systems, or you can use it as a standalone web product. Cool. We're very proud that one of the first things we did was we deployed to the UK via the NQCC. We won a tender several years ago, and that's now widely available. But we have commercial partnerships with HSBC and DY on this to help train internally. Now, the background to it is that when we were early in focusing on our most technical products, performance management for quantum computers, we had a huge number of inbounds to us of people saying, I really am excited about what you're talking about, and I have no idea what any of it means. So can you help me? And we faced a challenge, especially early in our journey. And the challenge was, do we do consulting or do we give away the revenue? Right? And that's a hard challenge for an early business. And we took the perspective that as a product-focused company, we shouldn't do either. We should make something to solve the problem.
Yeah.
And so we built this application. It's obviously evolved quite a lot over the last couple of years, but it meets exactly that need, such that a bank, a consultancy, a public sector provider of education can bring this to whoever their relevant users are. But the reality is we also use it internally, right? We have members of our team here from the marketing background, from government engagement background, who have no quantum experience whatsoever, but they have used it internally. Our first customer when we launched it was IonQ, who was using it to train their business development and related people. So we see that there is, again, a huge opportunity for product-driven innovation, so really building products instead of just the research side or the academic education side. And we've been very grateful for all the partnerships that we've built over the years in that direction.
Worth noting that it'll run on an LMS, so corporate clients could put it on a learning.
This is a brand new thing. It was the number one most. It was it was the number
cool.
2 most requested feature. Number 1 most requested feature was shareable LinkedIn badges.
Oh, brother. But that's impressive on an LMS. Yeah. Abby, what's your take on that sort of?
Yeah, so the NQCC were a kind of expert first or very early customer for the Black Opal platform. So we've got an enterprise license that we give to UK residents or organizations. And we found, as Mike was saying, because it's non-mathematical, it's highly interactive, kind of intuitive way to learn about quantum computing. We're finding that quite a broad range of people are finding it valuable. So, for example, we have cohorts from different government departments using it. So policy leaders looking to deepen their understanding of the technology, patent lawyers, for example, as well, using it. I've used it myself to get through a Christmas with the in-laws one year, playing with it on my phone. So that was scary. But I think offering these kind of accessible ways to engage with and learn about quantum computing is really important to upskill those kind of broader roles.
Cool. So I want to drill down to sort of the supply side, if you will, now to ask you about. So you're the dean of a prestigious engineering school at the University of Chicago. Chicago is a hotbed of
Which school? We need to say it again. Which school?
The one,
University of Chicago.
Everybody, all together.
No.
University of Chicago. Don't want her to get busted when she goes back. Did you mention the school?
Yeah.
I'll tell David Ashalam that we featured the school. But anyway, so you're kind of at the forefront, right? So how are you evolving educational pathways or curriculum or courseware and or approaches, right, to deliver this kind of content to get the workforce ready?
Yeah, well, there are a couple of things. One is that, quantum is inside an engineering school. So, the focus there is really what.
It's not in marketing.
It's not. Well, it's also not in fundamental science. It's in engineering. So we are thinking about translation from the start about how to integrate that. We have a quantum accelerator that's accessible to all of our students. We are thinking about connecting, like the Quantum Plus connecting to computer science, and we are really thinking about the quantum ecosystem, making sure that our students have internships in industry, that we bring industry in to work with our students, to work with our faculty, to really integrate that from the start. Because I think that's, quantum is going to evolve. And so whatever we train our students in today is not necessarily going to be the thing that they work on in 4 years. So we have to make sure that they know how, they have the skills, but they also know how to work with industry. So one of the things that we're working on with IBM, for example, is this National Quantum Algorithm Center that IBM is bringing some of their quantum algorithm people to Hyde Park in Chicago, not in London, but the other one. And along with several other universities, University of Illinois, the state of Illinois, we are planning to build up a center there for quantum algorithms, which is going to be one of the key things we have to train students on in the future, because someone has to program all these quantum computers and quantum systems. So we're working directly with IBM, with other industries, to help train students to really bring up workforce together in terms of thinking about what the future needs are and what the current needs are.
So getting the feedback from end users, from companies that are deploying these technologies and hiring your students to do the work, right? So,
in healthcare as well, and in banking, we're doing it with all these companies at the same time.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Piers, I want to turn to you, as someone who deals with clients, right, who are scratching their heads about where to start and what kind of workforce they need to build. What guidance are you giving to companies that know that quantum is coming and, but maybe don't have an in-house focus yet, or they don't have expertise and need to build out some kind of team or establish partnerships?
Sure. I mean, the first thing, which isn't often popular, is actually saying what future are you building for? And I think a lot of clients say quantum computers, post-quantum cryptography, that's it. And they're not aware of a broader conversation around other quantum technologies, some of which we've just talked about. So actually, I think executive awareness and education is still a challenge in many of the kind of boardrooms that I'm in. In terms of what you practically do, I think there's a piece around get started, have a sprint, come back and see where you are. It's not setting a 5-year roadmap around building talent and coming back and looking. I think it is a regular review, as you said, as the system evolves. The other piece for me, as I said earlier, is making sure you're leveraging partnerships. We're looking at it in terms of building deep specialists in terms of cryptographers, ethicists, data scientists, but also leveraging some of the technologies such as Mike's, building that broad awareness in terms of everybody having access to quantum training. I'm delighted EY does have a quantum badge on LinkedIn, so we're there.
So not to press you, and it wasn't on my list, but curious, are there verticals are you seeing more interested or, more panicked or more available to fund this or whatever?
I'm probably looking at Phil in financial services as an area of focus. And I think it's interesting, actually, if you look at the different industry verticals, and again, this featured in the work we did, the NQCC a while back, it depends on what they're looking at. We heard about some of the sensing applications, but overall, I'd say financial services is probably very data centric and also very concerned around security. So that's probably the key industry we're seeing demand from.
Yeah, the PQC, the Q-Day conversation around cryptographic audit, where's your data vulnerable?
Which I think is a great conversation, but it's possibly a narrow conversation to have if that's the only thing you're talking about regarding quantum.
Yeah. So I want to zoom out and get a sense of how academia and industry could better partner or align when it comes to quantum education and training. Where are the gaps? Because the theme, right, is more than just producing physics PhDs. We need systems engineers, software developers, product managers. Talking to the guy who runs Maybell, they need welders. They're trying to find people to put the dill fridges together. So any ideas around better connecting or a process that would make that better, Nadia?
Yeah, I mean, this is something we heard in some of the other panels, that people mentioned co-design. You mentioned co-design of hardware, of software. I think we should really think about co-design of education. There's a huge opportunity here. We don't need, okay, I'm trained as a condensed matter physicist, but we don't need people who are classical condensed matter physics training to do everything in quantum. Can we rethink what that training looks like? Maybe we skip radiation and focus on waves. Maybe we skip waves and focus on hardware or software, right? There's an opportunity here to think about what's needed in the future, to work with industry at various levels to make sure that we're really designing curriculum newly. It's a new topic. We should have a new curriculum. And so I think this is relevant both at the bachelor's phase, certainly at the master's phase, which is supposed to, educate people one step beyond for different sorts of jobs, and certainly at the certificates phase for people who have degrees in other areas and want to move into the quantum areas. These all exist already, but I think we can do a better job of designing them for the specifics of quantum technology and jobs.
Yeah. Philip, you have a PhD, so now you're working at a bank. So what might facilitate better interaction between academia and private sector?
Well, I mean, within our partnership pillar, academia is a critical part of it, right? I said we work with lots of different types of organizations, but academia is included in that. Again, I take a very hands-on approach and applied approach to most of these things. So the best way we can kind of learn from each other is to work on projects together. And so that ranges, there's probably three key things we do. The first is that we will work on projects together to solve a particular problem, which will often result in more of a research paper type of activity, right? Which is more around that external credibility piece as well. That's recognized for a good quantum team. It's less recognized internally in terms of like an ROI perspective, but
right. Well,
the name of the game is about balance, but it's still important. And I always say to my team as well, it's important that you're continually active in co-authoring research papers and being active in that part of the field, because you don't know what you're going to move into in the future. The second thing we do is we do sponsor PhD students, and as part of grant collaborations, we will bring them into the organization. So there's some hands-on practical experience of working on real-world use cases. And the third thing that I can't claim to do, my team do, is they go to the universities they have affiliations with, and they'll lecture and talk about from technical topics all the way through to how we think about it in the organization. So there's many more things we could do, shaping agendas, making it the balance between the theory and business, which I think is increasingly diverging in some ways, and all sorts of things. But those are kind of the three core things that we've been active in over the last few years.
Can I double down for a second?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
On just how important this kind of trusted partnership between sectors is. To be frank, it doesn't always work, right? Many academic organizations will look at a company like Q-CTRL, which is about 155 people, the same way they look at HSBC, who can fund PhD students and engage in that long-term research. So building the trust is a work in progress.
Yeah.
I want to say why it's so important. I had what I consider one of the most horrifying experiences in my professional career in this kind of setting, talking to a government advisor in Australia who was discussing the kinds of conversations they had with their peers. Now, this particular government person was very au fait with quantum and was a big advocate for research investment and the like. And what they said was, when I talk to my colleagues in Parliament, they don't see any difference between monkey NFTs and quantum computing. They see they are identical, right?
Wow.
And
What year was this?
this was just 2 years ago.
Okay. Wow.
And what I came to realize from that is that it's horrifying that a field that has decades of deep R&D investment is equal in the minds of policymakers to a speculative, quick token asset, right? And I think the one way we can help dispel this is by coming together as a sector across the different domains to showcase how much deep R&D, decades of knowledge development goes into the technology that we as industrialists build, that our colleagues consume and develop on their own, to contrast with some of the more superficial technologies that have been emerging.
Wow. But so the implication, would that tie to, say, funding on some level or support or
It doesn't
policy
even
or-
need to. Look, I should never say, oh, I don't need more money. We always need more money.
We need more money.
Everybody needs more money. It's about,
You'll take your money.
it's about credibility. It's about establishing a real substantial background to what we're building and making sure that the differences are understood.
Can I add a quick build as well?
Yes,
Chris?
please.
So one thing that has been mentioned is placements, and we found that that's a really great way for universities and students to get insight to what industry needs. So the NQCC offers kind of placements right from work experience through to kind of undergrads, apprenticeships as well, and grad and PhD placements. And I think those have gone into a variety of roles. So not just the ones you'd expect, where you've got physics students going to work with our hardware scientists at the lab, but also taking students and putting them in science communication roles, working with the business development manager, kind of sectoral engagement as well. We've had an apprentice student with a software engineering background working at control systems team, for example. And I think, by offering those kind of opportunities for people with the right STEM background to get those kind of broader skill sets, you're probably more likely for them to then go into those types of roles in the future as well.
Yeah, great. So we're running out of time, and we have some great questions in Slido. So my deferring to the panelists, track them down on the networking break or follow them on LinkedIn or connect with them they'll feel these questions. But and this wasn't on my list, but I want to ask each of you to take like 30 seconds and give us words of wisdom, like what you would say to someone, to a company, to an audience member, maybe whatever organization looking to build a quantum workforce. Like, what would be the 2 cents, the insight you would share based on where you sit and what you do?
For a company or academia, for anyone?
Not for a company, for an organization.
Sure.
This is, commercialized.
I would say be broad, right? I mean, people learn new jobs all the time. And so you're training people for what you want them to do, not what they're doing right now. So breadth in terms of math skills, technical skills, and computing skills. And I just want to say one small thing that I know we wanted to get to, which is broadening participation, because as we're talking about opportunities for bringing new people into the workforce, I think that we can all work together, industry and academia, to make sure that we help maintain an international workforce everywhere that can move freely. That's incredibly important for building science, and help maintain a diverse workforce that's welcoming to everyone. So.
Thank you. Yeah, we just didn't get that. We have
Right.
great
Screw it in.
questions. But no, I'm with you totally.
So I would say from a organizational perspective is don't sit on the fence around it. Either do it properly or don't do it, right? And that starts with understanding what the potential impact of this technology is going to have on your organization, and making a strategic decision as to whether you want to invest in building that capability and readiness or not. And if you do, you then need to decide your strategy around workforce. And I think one of the proudest things I am of the HSBC Quantum Program is we've managed to acquire and bring in some incredible scientific talent because we kind of did it properly.
That's great. Michael,
The greatest lie about quantum technology is that it's hard. It's not hard. It's just different. And I think it's been a huge disservice that we've embraced this message that quantum is so hard. It's so difficult to understand. It's nonsense. We've just kind of taught it the wrong way. And with innovations in education that have come from academia, from organizations like ours, it is much, much more accessible than the popular narrative might suggest from the Feynman days.
But it's not hard for you because you're from the University of Chicago.
Harvard, we're at Harvard.
We were at Harvard.
I'd echo what Nigel around responsible quantum and building trust, because I think trust is going to be key for businesses to adopt it. In terms of adopting it, my advice is it's dangerous. Don't go along. None of us, we've got 200,000 people. We can't do this on our own. We need great partners. So think about building those partnerships early on in your talent journey.
That's great. Abby, the last word.
Yeah, think about what types of roles in your organization are most likely to engage with quantum computing, and what depth of knowledge do those roles need, and what is the path look like to upskill. So I think things like short courses, continuing professional development will be an important mechanism for the current professionals to upskill.
Yeah, great. Well, I think we're out of time. I'm getting the red light. How about a hand for the panel? Thank you all. Thank you all for the great insight.